I got to tell you, we all know this. Most of the time when the Mets sign free agents, it doesn't go well. All right, usually doesn't end well. If we are making a list of some of the best free agent signings in Met history, this guy's pushing it towards the top. This guy really is, because I don't think they make the playoffs in 1999 without him. I know they don't make the playoffs. I don't think they win the pennant in 2000 without this guy. Added some stability at third base, which for a very long time was an unstable position. So, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you Robin Ventura. Robin, Joe, and Evan in New York. How are you, sir?
Hi, Robin. How are you?
I am good. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. We're doing all right. You know, the first thing, I want to start with this because you were part of that tremendous infield in 1999. You know, Olerud, Alfonso, Ordonez, and you. And I could still see that cover of Sports Illustrated, you know, the greatest infield, whatever it was, of all time. How about that? Because that was a pretty good infield you guys had. Certainly, well, outside of Ordonez offensively, but certainly defensively. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun group to play with. I mean, it really was. I mean, Ray was spectacular at short, and you know, Fonzie was a great second baseman. I think John's probably one of the more underrated first basemen. You know, when people talk about first base, because he was such a big target, had a great glove, could throw, and he just made everything look really effortless. So even though we might have made some bad throws over there, he made us look pretty good.
He was tremendous. What about, and maybe it was simply the money, you tell me, what made you want to come here? You spent so much time with the White Sox, had great success there. What made that offseason, 98 to 99, the decision for you to join the New York Mets as a free agent?
Well, I mean, I was at the end. I knew I wasn't going back to the White Sox. I mean, that was, you know, pretty evident. And then some of the other offers that with other teams it just didn't seem like a good fit. And I had talked to Bobby and Steve, and they were talking about that because I was concerned that Fonzie didn't really want to move to second.
Right.
You know, because he was playing third at that time. And they had said they'd already, you know, they talked to him and he's fine with going over to second. So that really became like a better fit for me. And just the way the team was set up, it just seemed like the right thing to do. And I'd run into Tino at some point, and he was the one that was he goes, you know, they got a really good thing going over there. And he goes, I think that would be a good spot for you. So it kind of just, you know, stuck in my head a little bit about, you know, they were really the leaders of where I really wanted to go and who I wanted to play with.
Tino Martinez, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Now I love Tino even more now. I mean, he basically helped get Robin Ventura to the Mets. How about that?
He did. He might not admit that, but he did. But I mean, he was the one kind of telling me that that would be a good spot for me.
You know, and it's interesting too, Rob, because you played on. There's not a lot of Met teams over the years that have gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Okay, they've never done it 3 years in a row, and you were on that team that went to back-to-back playoffs, 99 and 2000. How about those 2 years? I always thought. I want to see what you think. I know you guys went to the World Series in 2000. I always thought 99 was the better team. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, either one of those teams was really good. I think that first one was like getting over the hump a bit because they hadn't been there for a while. But both teams were really fun to play on. I mean, the guys that were on that team were. It was fun going to play every day. I mean, everybody was just focused on trying to win a game. It really wasn't about individual stuff or anything like that. So it was, you know, from players and even pitchers and everything. It was just a really cohesive group both years. It really was. Really fun to play on.
Yeah, you weren't on the 98 team, but the 98 team collapsed down the stretch. I just could not win a game down the stretch. And if they would have won any one of their final 5 games, I think they would have at least been in a playoff, a one-game playoff. And 1999 down the stretch started to feel the same way. You guys couldn't get out of your own way. And I thought you got the biggest hit of the year, that Friday night against the Pirates, tie game. Team blew the game late. I think the Mets were up 2-0 in that game. I forget who blew it. I would assume Armando Benitez, but I don't want to say that. Maybe it was somebody else.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's good. You know what? For the sake of this, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But what does matter is you got the game-winning hit with 2 outs. And I thought that hit it felt like relaxed everybody, because then the next night Rick Reed dominates. You guys win the Sunday game, you sweep the series, and you end up in that one-game playoff Monday. What do you remember about that walk-off on that Friday night against the Pirates? Because it felt like the biggest hit of the year to me as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make it sound like it was hit hard and everything else, but it was something that was, I think it was like fisted into center field, and it doesn't matter because we ended up winning the game. But I think for everybody, you're going into that last weekend, and we know we got to win all three, and it probably did, relieve a little bit on Saturday. But we were in the position that we had to win the game anyway. But it was just a nice thought that we had the first game, and everybody was pretty confident and relaxed. I mean, it was just again, it was more of a veteran group, and guys just came into play, and everybody just kind of felt like you were going to win. And but yeah, I think Friday probably, it could have been anybody, but I think just winning Friday probably helped to the mood going into, Saturday and Sunday to kind of relax a little bit.
Talking to Robin Ventura. All right, how about the one-game playoff in Cincinnati, which turns out to be, certainly in my mind, the best game Al Leiter ever pitched as a man. I mean, he was unbelievable. How about that game, Robin?
Yeah, it was an interesting thing because we were flying because it was raining the last day when we won, so we were waiting to see what happened, and then finally, they decided that we're just going to start flying, and we're heading to Arizona, and they said if we veer off, then Cincinnati won. So then about halfway in, we veer off into Cincinnati, so we know we got a one-game playoff. But luckily for us, Al was lined up to pitch that game, and he pitched a great game. I mean, him and Fonzie had a big homer to kind of get us going.
Right.
Fonzie had a great playoff. I mean, he really did. Yeah. He was on fire. So, but Al, the way he was pitching, it was he was just on his game, and it's just fun even thinking back, because Al had so many reactions. His actions on the mound were just great, because he's into every pitch and putting his glove on his hat, and I mean he just pitched a great game.
Now let's get to the important stuff, Robin. All right, the music and the rallying cry, because it still makes me sick that in 2000, after you guys won the pennant, I got to hear "Who Let the Dogs Out." I mean, it doesn't exactly hold up.
Yeah, that was a bit disappointing. That probably didn't go over well. That probably wasn't a good one. But,
but in 1999, you've got The Doors, you've got Mr. Mojo, right? After you hit the Grand Slam single, L.A. Woman. I mean, where did that come from? Because that felt like the rallying song of the season for the 99 team.
Yeah, I think we had like a night off or something, and Olerud and I had gone to a movie with our wives, and I think we went to Austin Powers or something, and it was about the mojo or something. We were walking out, and he goes, we got a pretty good mojo going with our team right now. I said, yeah, you're right. So I was thinking about it. I go in, and Charlie Samuels is our equipment manager, and I'm like, hey, Charlie, do you got any Doors that you could play after the game? He goes, yeah, I love the Doors. And I go, and I just remember that phrase going over and over again. And I say, hey, when we win tonight, just put L.A. Woman on. And he goes, okay, great. And somehow, that song is so long that he would put it on when the last out was made, and by the time we got to the locker room, that would come on. That portion of the song would come on, and there was something about it being at Shea and the sound, the whole thing of it, and everybody was a little bit older, so everybody kind of remembers the song, and it just kind of took off from there, and guys wanted to hear it. And it just kind of became a thing.
So who do we blame for Who Let the Dogs Out? Because that was a horrible mistake.
I don't know. I know there were some guys that were disappointed when that happened. But,
all right.
I don't know who did that, but they put that out there, and it went over like a lead balloon. Obviously.
Yes.
I remember something you did off the field. It was on the field, but it wasn't during a game. and I think it was a rain delay, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes.
And they got the tarp on the field,
yes.
okay? And you run out there, you put like a fake mustache on, like making it like that you were Piazza, okay? And you run out on the field on the tarp, and you're diving on the tarp with the rain, all of that. I mean, what inspired you to do that, Robin?
Well, we obviously were in a rain delay, and it was pretty long, and everybody was, I think it was at Yankee Stadium, and everybody was bored. You're sitting inside, you don't know if you're going to play, and I just kind of started walking around, and every time I would walk around Mike's locker, I would grab something out of his locker and put it on and just keep walking. And I started walking like him and just doing stuff, and guys were laughing, and John Franco goes, "Hey, if we get rained out, you got to go do his thing on the tarp." And I was like, I can't, I said, I haven't had a beer or anything. I can't go do that. And he's like, "No, you're going to go do it, and everybody's going to watch." I'm like, "Oh, shit, here we go." Next thing you know, it's like they come in and call the game, and everybody gets excited and starts running down to the dugout. And they talked me into it. So you just go out and do it, and they enjoyed it. I was a little nervous about doing it, but they thoroughly enjoyed it.
Let me tell you something, Robin. That was clutch, because I was at that game with my dad at Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. I loved it, but there was nowhere to stand during a rain delay. You're like a sardine. So after about an hour of waiting, I said to my dad, "I don't care about this rain. We got to go sit in the stands. Let's just get poured on, because you stand back there, and it's like being on a subway, except it's not going anywhere." And that was great entertainment, because as I'm sitting there with like 500 other people, because, most people had left, all of a sudden I see this guy come out dressed up as Piazza. I couldn't tell it was you. And go out and does the whole thing. It was very, very entertaining. So for all 500 people that were still there that night, I want to thank you for that. You gave us great entertainment.
Hey, you're welcome. I do my part. I try and entertain in different ways. It wasn't planned, but Johnny and Al were forcing me to go out. I don't think we were actually playing that well at the time. And
no, you were
like,
losing. David Cohn was pitching for a few innings, and you guys were losing like 2-0 or something.
Yeah, and he goes, "We need something. We need something to put out there." So that's how that happened.
And it's crazy. That game got rained out, and that was the game that got made up into the 2-stadium doubleheader, and that made-up game turned out to be the game where Roger Clemens drilled Mike Piazza in the head.
That was wonderful.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And also Doc pitching for the Yankees,
oh,
right?
God.
How bad was
during
that?
The day.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
No, that was hard to deal with, Robin. It really was.
I know.
Talking to Robin Ventura, how about the Grand Slam single? I mean, that's probably your most famous moment. And you hit 1 million Grand Slams. You also were a guy to hit Grand Slam. I don't know how many you hit in your career, 14, 15, whatever. You hit a lot of Grand Slams. But how about the Grand Slam single? Todd Pratt, he runs by you on the bases, all of that. How about that? You run by him, whatever happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long game. First of all, it's been raining. Everybody's been out there a long time. I think, we never really played well against the Mets, and I think once we went down, you're kind of like, oh man, here we go again. But Sean Dunston has an unbelievable bat to lead off the inning, and then it just, you can kind of feel it creeping up that something was going to happen. And once it's tied up, it's I'm just trying to get something in the air, because at the time my knee was a little banged up, and I knew if I hit one on the ground, it's a double play. So the only thing I really wanted to do is just hit a fly ball, and luckily I hit it. And I don't think anybody's really caring or looking to see if it went over the fence. So when I went around first, Pratt was he touched second and turned around, and it actually turns out to be a better moment the way it happened than if I would have actually circled the bases. I think more people were trying to figure out what's going on, but I think the only people that didn't like it are people that probably bet on games,
Yes.
and that was an issue. But No, it just turned out to be a really cool moment, I think, for everybody.
I thought, and I think I'm wrong about this now, I thought in the moment you were annoyed because the look on your face as you're signaling to Todd Pratt, hey, keep running, I thought that there was a little anger in you, but maybe I'm wrong.
At first I didn't know if he'd actually touched second.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to make sure that he had at least touched second, and then once everybody else was saying he had already done it, once he touches second, we're done, but I just wanted to make sure he touched second.
We're talking to Robin Ventura. All right. I almost lost my mind in the stands at Game 2 of the World Series when that buffoon throws the bat at Mike Piazza. Were you or anyone else close to just going out there and starting a brawl? Like, was that ever close to happening? Obviously, Mike was confused, and he's kind of walking towards Roger. But was there anybody in that coming out of that dugout that was ready to go after Roger Clemens?
Yeah, I think there was, but you're in the World Series, you get kicked out, you don't know if you get suspended for the next game. I know for Mike it was, people might say stuff about Mike not doing anything right then, but Mike was too important for our whole lineup that he couldn't really do anything, because if he gets kicked out, we're a totally different team with him not in there. So it was just a weird scene just because of what actually happened. And you're in the World Series, you don't know really the ramifications of it. We don't really want to lose anybody to play in the next game. So it turned out to be a really weird scene at the time. But yeah, I mean, there was guys that were pretty upset.
I remember when we're talking to Robin Ventura, you were with the White Sox, and I remember this fight, okay? It was pretty much Mike Tyson against Michael Spinks is what it was, with you being Michael Spinks, with Nolan Ryan. And he's got you in this headlock, and he's just belting you. Take us through that moment, Robin.
Well, both of those teams had been kind of thrown at each other for a while, so there was pretty much whoever gets hit next has to go out. And I obviously was the one that got hit next. So it turned in. I'm not much of a charging the mound guy, but you got to go and do what you got to do. And it obviously didn't go well for me, but it lives its own life on the internet, I'm sure.
Yes,
no question.
He was a tough guy. And Ryan was he like 40 already when that happened? Was he?
I have no idea.
All right.
There's a guy.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think he was, but it's become an infamous moment. That's for sure.
Yes, I had to bring it up, Rob. I hope you don't.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Okay. There's a guy Joe and I always talk about that we look at him and say, boy, he's been forgotten in baseball history as far as being a Hall of Famer is concerned. And you played with this guy. You played with this guy for 2 years, and is not even on the Hall of Fame ballot anymore. And we assume it's because the writers couldn't stand him. And that guy is Albert Belle. So tell us, you were teammates with him for 2 years in Chicago. Had some pretty good years there. Obviously, he's most known as an Indian. Was Albert Belle a bad guy? What was he like?
No, Albert was just intense when he got to the park. I mean, he's really one of the smarter hitters I ever played with. I think everybody talks about all this new technology, and nowadays guys can see every at bat that they have over the course of their career. Basically, it's all on video, and you get to see it, and you look it back up. But Albert used to write down on 3x5 cards every pitch he saw, every time he went up, who the pitcher was, who the catcher was, the situation. Really smart and diligent about keeping track of pitchers that he saw and the pitches that he got. And he just was a really good hitter, and he was kind of a relentless guy. I mean, he went up, he just never let up. I don't care if the score was 15-1. He was looking to do some damage when he went up. And I don't know what I think it was 98 when I played with him, but I think if you look at his numbers in the second half, they're absolutely incredible. I just remember he had a really high average in home runs and RBIs. It was crazy what he was doing. But he's a very talented guy. I mean, it might be. I mean, there might be some of that kind of bias in there that they don't have him in there for that. But he was definitely one of the most feared hitters in that era.
By the way,
time.
Just to give you those numbers, because you're spot on, in the second half of 1998, he hit .387 with 31 home runs and 86 RBIs in 76 games, which is insane.
I mean, it was every day. It was like he was knocking in, a couple runs, and some days 5 runs. But it just seems like he was on base every time he went up there.
Yeah, it's a joke he's not in the Hall of Fame. Again, we're talking to Robin Ventura. All right, how about let's go to 2002 as well, when you guys get to the World Series. The Cardinals did you a big favor by knocking the Braves. I always look at that and say, boy, oh boy. I mean, thank God the Cardinals beat the Braves that year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was even a little relief for everybody on our team too, is that you don't really have to go through them anymore. And I think we had played the Cardinals fairly well that year, but it was just, you didn't have to play the Braves, so it wasn't like it's going to be a repeat of the year before. And
right,
you got a new team coming in, and I think that was actually the same year that Ankle
yes,
yeah,
yep, Rick
started
Ankiel,
out
yep.
the game. Yeah,
No
the first
doubt.
game he wasn't able to throw strikes, and it again just some weird stuff that happens in the game that you don't really see that coming in.
We're talking to Robin Ventura. We were talking about this earlier. I had this memory of you hitting a home run against the Mets in the Subway Series. Do you remember that at all?
I think it was the first time we came back to Shea, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I know I played. I think we also did a split doubleheader at Yankee Stadium and Shea that same the year I went to the Yankees. I think that was I think that happened to me. I think I did it on both teams.
Yeah, I think that was.
I don't know if that was the same night, but I think that was the first game back at Shea.
It was the first game back at Shea. Joe and I can't even remember the Met pitcher. Komayama was the guy you actually hit it off in the bottom of the 10th.
I had no idea who this guy was. Yes. No idea.
Yeah, it was late in the game. I think Jorge had hit a double. I think it was a tie game.
Correct. Yep.
And I think Jorge hit a double, and then you're just kind of like, all right, they need to just pull something to the right side. Just. I mean, it happened, but it wasn't like I was trying to hit a homer or anything like that. It was just, I just knew I had to pull it.
And you were there on this has to, I assume this has to be weird. You're on the Yankees during the Roger Clemens revenge game against the Mets, the day that Sean Estes is throwing behind them. What was that like, especially being on the other side when in 2000, you're the enemy of Roger Clemens. Now, you're his teammate a couple of years later.
Yeah, I think once you're his teammate, he's your teammate. So he's on your team, and I knew you kind of know what's kind of coming up or what's happening. But but I was on a different team, so that goes to the back shelf, and you're with the team that you're with. So,
right.
At that time it was a weird thing for me just because I was on the other side when it happened, but. Nothing really came of it.
And I was hearing that you are now basically going to help young college kids learn how to hit at Oklahoma State. Is that what's going on, Robin?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice.
I was coaching at Oklahoma State this year before they canceled everything. So it was really fun. It's a good spot. I mean, a lot of guys, the guys I'm coaching with, I've known for a long time. Matt Holliday's actually here. His brother's our head coach, but
nice.
Just a really fun experience. The kids are great and really enjoying it.
How many Grand Slams did you have? 14?
I'm going to say more than that.
Okay. No, I'm just saying.
I don't know the number, but I think it's more than that.
Okay. I don't want to shortchange you, Robin. I'm just,
No,
okay.
you were right though, Joe. Man, the guy used to take grand slams all the time. You were Mr. Clutch with the bases loaded.
Yep.
Do you want to manage again? You managed the White Sox for 5 years. Do you want to get back into it someday?
I would. I mean, right now, obviously, everything's a bit crazy, but
sure.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's just, it depends on, if those opportunities come up again and where it's at and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a really fun experience and totally enjoyed it. Totally enjoyed the guys I was with and the team I was with.
18, by the way, Joe. 18 grand slams for Robin. Not
18.
bad.
That's not bad. That is pretty good. No, I'm sorry I shortchanged you by 4, Robin.
That's all right. That's all right. I knew it was more than that, but it doesn't matter.
Were you ever, before the Mets hired Beltran this year, and of course we all know what happened with that, but I had heard your name mentioned. Were you ever a candidate for the Met manager job this year?
No, I mean, I was actually out of the country at the time, so I didn't. I didn't know what was going on. By the time I came back, they'd already hired the new manager.
Well, Robin, we appreciate you coming
Really
on.
do.
Thanks for everything you did. You were a hell of a Met, like we said
Tremendous
at the Open.
man. No doubt about it, Robin.
And stay safe. And thanks for coming
All
on.
right, you guys stay safe too.
Really appreciate it, Robin Ventura.
Okay.
Robin Ventura. By the way,
Good stuff.
here's the list of guys with the most Grand Slams in MLB
Isn't
history.
A-Rod have the most?
A-Rod has the most at 25.
Right, and then Lou Gehrig?
Lou Gehrig at 23.
Right.
Manny Ramirez at 21.
Oh, Manny has 21, huh?
Eddie Murray at 19.
Right.
And then a tie between Willie McCovey and Robin Ventura at 18.
Wow.
And then Jimmy Fox, Ted Williams at 17.
Wow.
That's pretty good company right
Yes, I would say so.
there. That's not bad.
Really all Hall of Famers. Well, not Ventura, I guess, but everybody else is, you know.
Well, or could be, should be's with the A-Rod and the Manny Ramirez.
Of course.
You know, guys that at least could be. But that's an impressive group that he's with